Hi guys, I'm Raticate Joey.
And I'm Maxon.
And welcome back to FutureSight. Today we're going to be doing our second viewer request. This one's been requested by two of our viewers. They are Phase 22 Pokemon Party and, was it Shazan Doring? Sorry, I've not got the names in front of me, I should have written them down. They both made their own requests for videos, but both of their requests had the same key focus. And that's what we want to go over today. That key focus is the new Raticate that's been brought to us from the Freeze Bolt Cold Flare set. Raticate is a Stage 1 colourless Pokemon with 60 hit points, weakness to fighting, no resistance, a retreat cost of 1, and 2 attacks. Its 2 attacks are for a colourless, you can use Gnaw Off, which allows you to discard a Pokemon tool attached to the defending Pokemon. Its second attack, and the primary focus of this episode, is Super Fang, which for 3 colourless allows you to place damage counters on a defending Pokemon until it has 10 hit points left. Now the major advantage of this, as anyone can see, is the fact that Super Fang is allowing you to take the opposing Pokemon down to a given number of hit points. So it doesn't matter, if they've got like Large Cloak, Eviolite, anything like that attached, any kind of modifier, it'll still always go down to 10 hit points because it's an effect instead of direct damage. And to be honest, I hold quite strongly with the idea that any attack that will take your opponent down to a set amount of hit points, it's always going to have potential in any format. You just need to find a way of actually making it go off on its own. I mean, if you look back at the Diamond and Pearl series, back in Secret Wonders, we got like Glade and Gardevoir together. That Glade actually had an attack that brought damage your opponent down to 60 hit points. Now the difference between Raticate and Glade is the fact that Glade, when it brought him down to 60 hit points, had a secondary attack which allowed it to actually do a base of 60 damage. So you could see how it's set up for the KO there. Raticate doesn't have that same synergy with itself, but with it only being 10 damage you have to deal with, there are quite a few ways around it. Be it through statuses, be it through bench sniping if you can't place a status and they retreat to the bench.
I suppose the major selling point that people like about the card is the fact that due to the format where we have lots of large HP basics, it doesn't really matter what it's facing, it will always drop it down to 10, always putting it in the KO range. I suppose some of the problems that it has, I guess, is any kind of deck that actually heals, unless you're aiming to take that Pokemon down with an ability like a Moongus's ability.
Or the Spore Surprise.
Yeah.
Or Spore Surprise, or I don't know, I think it's Spore Surprise, isn't it?
Oh, I don't know. But you know what I mean.
Yes.
And unless you're planning to take it down a turn, I suppose it's really good for setting up KOs later in the game. Although Raticate's low HP and relatively high energy cost is somewhat worrying.
I know, I do really dislike that. I mean, it is nice to see that its hit points are double what they are in Rattata, but Rattata has no hit points to start with. It's got 30 hit points, it can be sniped by anything. You double that, it's 60 hit points, and really on a stage 1, 60 hit points, it doesn't sound right.
Especially when
we're getting a lot of basics with 70
well, the
hit points
format,
now.
Yeah, and fighting is pretty popular weakness amongst a lot of the better decks at the moment.
Very true. Also, another thing that goes against like Raticate and in fact its entire line is the fact that Super Fang is the only way that Raticate does damage. I mean, if you look at like Gnaw Off, it just discards a tool, no damage. The Rattata underneath is a coin flip on paralysis, no damage. So it will never be able to work on its own.
Yeah, I understand now. Yeah.
It's the one way to work with it though is the fact that, well, we've already mentioned statuses, but like you also mentioned the idea of like decks that heal themselves quite easily. Now, one thing that one advantage you do have over decks that do heal themselves, like say Darkrai Hydreigon, is the fact that if no matter what you drag out, you take it down to 10 hit points, they have to heal to stop themselves being KO'd at any point.
That's true, but if they do heal, that's kind of a waste of your attack.
True, I'm thinking more along the lines of though you can force out max potions, you can judge whether they have one in hand by the fact of whether they play it or not. If you've got something like a Darkrai in the active position with 70 hit points, even if you can free retreat, not 70 hit points, with 170 damage, and even with your free retreat, you don't want to keep that damage there because it is 2 prizes just waiting to happen, and anything could take it down, other than Raticate itself, oddly enough. But the whole idea that you can force them to bring out those max potions, you can force them to keep healing. They have to go onto their recovery engine. You know, they have to bring out the Sableye and start using it to grab them back a lot more often.
It depends. Are you still talking about Darkrai as a deck here, or what?
I'm using Darkrai as a key example, mostly because that is the biggest deck we've got that has recovery for cards like Max Potion. I mean, there is like Excadrill can grab that Max Potion back every turn, but how often we're going to see Excadrill in format? It's going to be few and far between if anyone does play it. I don't even think we're looking at it right now. There are a couple of ideas that have been thrown out there. I mean, Sazandoring, the one of the actual requesters for this video, mentions an actual combination deck for Raticate. It's a combination of the Raticate, Dusknoir, and Flygon, all from the same set. And already you can see some of the synergy there. I mean, with it being 2 stage 2s and a stage 1, I can see it being quite clunky. But like certain aspects of it could still work really well. I mean, I'd either focus on Flygon Raticate or Dusknoir Raticate. Personally, I'd prefer the Dusknoir just for the manipulation it offers. But in like these situations, the way it looks like it's designed to go is Raticate to take them down to 10. If you've done that on X, you've done it on an average X, you've pretty much done at least 160 damage onto the field. Dusknoir can easily spread that around around anything smaller. You know, possibly scoring you multiple KOs before your next attack. And I believe they've applied the Flygon to this deck mostly for the idea of you use the Raticate, you bring something down to 10 hit points, say retreat it, you bring something else down to 10 hit points. Next turn, bring out Flygon. Flygon then will do 10 damage to everything on your opponent's side, effectively knocking out 2 Pokemon.
It's starting to sound very, very, very clunky and situational.
I know. Mostly the Flygon variant sounds more situational, but as I said, I'd personally either go with Flygon Raticate or Dusknoir Raticate. With Dusknoir Raticate, you do have more chance of taking the mid-turn prizes. I mean, if you do, as I mentioned, if you do force your opponent to start actually using their heal engine quite quickly, all you need to really do is buy yourself a singular turn where they don't get the max potion off, and you've got 160, 170 damage on the board to manipulate however you want.
That's true, but again, if we're talking about Hydreigon and Darkrai, they do have the Sableye. If all you're trying to do is that one attack, Sableye can just floor you all day.
Another thing we have to point out is, and this is one of the first things you jumped on, is Raticate's huge energy cost.
Yeah, it does require 3 energy in this kind of format, and it's only got 60 HP.
Its survivability is incredibly fragile, and to really make use of it, even with cards like XP Sharing format, you're really going to want to be playing the double colorless on it. But a lot of people are talking about energy removal these days, and as soon as double colorless is in your discard pile, it's gone. You can't grab it back. Well, there are probably...
maybe.
True. I think there's probably, one, possibly 2 cards in format that can grab it.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, let's see. What's the second variant? Yeah, the second suggestion we've actually had was from Phase 22 plays Pokemon. And that's actually the it's the more meta version of the deck using, like, as you mentioned, Among Us' Sports Prize. So you can catch something out, Sports Prize, maybe use Deep Looter to bring the Among Us back to your hand. Even if you're leaving a small little fungus there, you can get the Sports Prize off next turn, and then you Super Bang for KO. Because, you know, 10 minutes 10 poison finishes it. I think these might be the only major ways to take care of it, but
Again, these are very small Pokemon you're dealing with.
yeah, you've got the Among Us, which is mostly just for its ability and its a bench-sitting tech. If you go for the Dusknoir methods, Dusknoir's attack itself isn't the biggest attack that we have in format, really. If I can just get it up in front of me, it's for 4 energy, 1 psychic, and 3 colorless. You do 60 damage. There's no resistance applied. That's it. So Dusknoir itself has got a huge energy cost, and it's low damage output. We also do have Flygon instead if we were to go for that variant. I can find it. It's the 80 damage, and you may discard a grass or fighting energy attached to it if you do the defending Pokemon is now paralyzed. And that's for grass, fighting, and double calls. So it's not the biggest attack ever.
Again, there seems to be a lot of components that need to go very right in order for this deck to succeed.
I mean, you can, at least with the Flygon, turn around and try and use the Vibrava. It does 50 to active and 10 to each of your opponent's bench Pokemon, but that really relies on them not healing between turns. Also, with it being an 80 hit point dragon, it's going to be quite fragile, because there's going to be a lot of dragon in the format.
Especially with the new Rayquaza, which will be able to deal with Flygon pretty easily.
Yes, that Rayquaza for some reason is $85 as we're at the point of recording. I don't know why. Of all the cards that you could put a huge price tag on, this is the one that's most likely going to get a promo. If not, it would get released as a normal rare in an upcoming set, because it's just a shiny version of the one from Dragon Selection. We don't have Dragon Selection in English yet. I don't think we're going to have a whole mini set just go walkies. But yeah, if you want to spend $85 on one card, power to them. Not my choice. And I think personally, we might be out of anything else to talk about on Raticate.
It's not really much to discuss. It's relatively low HP, makes it kind of a dangerous card to use, as a lot of what's in format could easily knock it out within a single attack. And the Among Us, whichever variant you want, the Among Us again has an equally rather small HP. Not as small, I think it's got like 90 or 110 or something like that.
I think it's either 80 or 90, I'm sure it's levelable.
So again, either one of these are easily knocked out by a lot of the bigger Pokemon in the format.
It's also quite a lot of setup.
I should probably point out that Espeon also kind of shuts the deck off.
Yeah, Espeon does shut it down, but with decks like Vanillux out of format, and even with Vanillux in format, Espeon doesn't see much play. It's going to be iffy whether it does appear.
I'm just saying, if something does cause it to reappear,
then yeah, it will shut everything down, yes. I mean, actually, there is one option that we haven't looked at. I mean, it's really more of an answer to Raticate's low hit points than anything else. There is always Mu-X.
True, but again, Mu-X is an EX, with basically the same thing.
True, the price exchange is the same number of hit points per prize.
Exactly. Although the setup would be easier, but again, you still need Raticate in play.
Which is going to catch a bait.
Or Darkrai, or anything that kind of hits the bench. I say mainly Darkrai, because
it's going to be a huge valid format.
And again, and things like Garchomp can easily one-shot it as well.
That's without any help from Altara.
Without any aliens.
Yeah, I really do actually want to turn around and say that it's a decent card, but really with the...
In our current format, unless there's some major power shift.
I know. I'm guessing really what this Raticate's missing, like, the one thing that's stopping it from being a powerful card is mostly just
It's
something to work with it. If there was something that could really make use of the whole you're set to 10 mechanic, then it would go off. It would be an amazing deck. It's just right here, right now. It's not got that final piece of the puzzle.
It still has energy requirements, and low HP still make it kind of hard to play.
True, we'd need something absolutely amazing to come into format for it to work. So basically, I mean, quite frankly, if people want to try the Raticate Amoongus variant, I'm all for people going for that, because I can see Amoongus being a playable card anyway. So making the investment there might not be the worst thing to do. Overall, though, I just don't see Raticate going as far as we really want it to. Taking anything down to 10 is good, but the format that we're in right now, it's not really too viable. Even as a tech, it's very iffy. I mean, a tech for 3 energy is it's unwieldy, to say the least, really.
As good as his attack sounds, I think it's just on the wrong kind of Pokemon. Or maybe not high enough stats, or maybe not a good enough cost. It's kind of a mix of all these, really.
Yeah, if it was double colorless and 80 hit points, then this conversation would go in a totally different direction.
Yeah.
I mean, for one thing, it could survive a non-charged retaliate if it had 80 hit points. I think 70 hit points would make it a bit more viable. It'd still be a bit shy for most stage 1s, but it'd be a bit more viable. As I said, I think we've pretty much covered everything then. So, yeah, sorry it's been a pretty negative sounding episode. As I say, I do want to actually see this card do well. I can see how it has.
You just wanted to see it do well because it's Raticate.
Well, it's got giant Rattata under it. What can I say? That Rattata is huge. Could ride that thing to work. But as I was saying, it's I actually, just for what kind of mechanic it really is as well. The whole down to a set number of hit points, it's never going to be a bad thing. Right now, I mean, off the top of our heads, we can't think of any way of making it work, and you know what? I'm sure somebody out there will find a way to break this, and I won't hate them if they do break it somehow. It'll be a godsend for the little guy. But mostly, all I can say is, yeah, it's a nice card. It's a nice attack. It's got potential, but it's just got so much against it. With that said, I think we'll be wrapping up this episode. If you actually would like to request your own, if you'd like to make a request for a future video, just drop us a note in the comments. We'll get to it. If you've already made a suggestion, don't worry, we will get to it. There's a couple of suggestions from our first notice on doing viewer requests. We will get around to those, and also we're still open to actually answering questions from you guys, our viewers. But until next time, I've been Raticate Joey.
I'm still Maxon.
If you like what you've heard, don't forget to rate, comment, subscribe. And until next time, stay in the top percent.
Ditch.